All right. I think in this setting, it's appropriate to say take two. Good morning, everyone. I am Matt Fruman, Ward 3 Council Member and Chairperson of the Committee on Human Services. Today is Friday, June 6, 2025. We are meeting in room 120 of the John A. Wilson Building and virtually via Zoom. The time is now 9:36. Today, we are conducting a budget oversight hearing on the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, or OCTFME. OCTFME's mandate is broad, and their work enriches the cultural and public life of the district in a variety of ways. First, OCTFME produces and broadcasts programming on the district's public education and government access cable channels and public radio station. OCTFME also regulates cable television in the district, negotiating and overseeing the district's cable franchises. Additionally, OCTFME provides permitting, location scouting, and production support while developing the district's creative workforce and administering the Film, Television, and Entertainment Rebate Fund. In this fiscal environment, all agencies, including OCTFME, need to carefully consider the programs and services that best serve residents. Now is the time to showcase the district, not just as a working hub for government, but as a vibrant, creative city with a diversified economy and ample support for creative sector careers. With successes like the Film Rebate Program, which has attracted the production of blockbuster films and major television shows, we know we can do it. It is imperative to bolster DC as a friendly place for the creative industry, open to new investment and great high-paying jobs. I'm excited to hear how we can further support the creative economy in the district while being mindful of the budget constraints that bind us all. Every dollar must go further than ever before to create opportunity and growth. Now I'd like to offer a few notes on logistics. In order to ensure we hear from all members of the public, I ask that all witnesses stick to their allotted time. All witnesses will have 3 minutes to provide oral testimony for today's hearing. First, we will call witnesses who are here in person to testify on a single panel. Then, when your name is called, please take a seat at the table in front of me. And before you speak, make sure to turn on the microphone in front of you. I will then call a single panel of our witnesses attending virtually. For our virtual participants, I would also like to provide some detailed reminders about the Zoom platform and the committee's rules for participation. All witnesses participating in this webinar are currently listed as attendees on Zoom. This means that your microphones are muted and your cameras are off. When it is your turn to join a panel for testimony, I will call your name and a member of my staff will change your status to a panelist. If you wish to activate your video while you testify, you will need to click the button on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen that looks like a video camera. Please remain muted until it is your time to testify. When it is your turn to testify, please unmute yourself. When your time is up, I kindly ask that you conclude your remarks so that we can ensure that everyone has a chance to be heard. For any technical difficulties, you can send a message to the host, which is labeled Committee on Human Services, and they will follow up with you. Now, let's turn to our panel of in-person witnesses. So I have Cameron Poles, Matthew Noonan, Chuck West, and Bree West. Oh, if you're here, please come to the table. And your name is?
Matt Noonan.
Okay. And then Chuck West?
Yes.
And then Bree West?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Noonan, if you're ready to proceed.
Sure. My name is Matt Noonan. I'm a location manager in the Washington, D.C. area. I service basically Washington, Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore, and Virginia, but primarily in Washington, D.C. I've been working in the film industry since 2002, and the Office of Cable Television has been a crucial ally in filming in the Washington, D.C. I've worked on very large projects, and for example, I worked on the Wonder Woman movie when it came here, and I worked with the city to help make sure that we, shut down streets safely, made sure that we brought all this production here, and we paid over $500,000 to the DC police in, just overtime alone. So we had a great relationship with everyone. We did a lot of logistics. I think we showcased the city beautifully, and it was a positive thing. Most recently, I've worked on 2 of the Marvel movies that have come here, the Thunderbolts and Captain America, what's the new one? Sorry, Captain America, Brave New World. Sorry, they changed the name on me a couple times while I was filming it. But we filmed in the city. We had some great scenes and we show off the city. I just filmed a TV show here in the city. And we were able to meet with the Metro. I have to work with the film office hand in hand on every aspect of my filming. I need them to be my first kind of reach out whenever I do filming, because I need to make sure that I'm reaching out to all the right people and that everyone is in the know. We do a lot of interesting things, and this city has a lot of interesting things happening all the time, but making sure if people see it and they get panicked, and if someone says, hey, what's going on? Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, very long, they're helping me to make sure that I'm reaching out to all the right players in this so that we're making sure. For Wonder Woman, we went to the task force meeting. We went and talked to them in depth, and we made sure that everyone knew what our dates were for filming, the location plans, and I had a contact list. Having that integral part, so we can make changes or adjustments. Or, for example, in the Wonder Woman movie, unexpectedly, the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, and we had the permit to right where the parade route was. Having the police be able to call me, say, what can we do? And I was like, let me call and let's move our trucks. Let's make sure we can make sure the Capitals have a great parade, and we're going to be fine filming. It's all make believe. But the Caps winning, that was a big one. So we make sure. But having that office to be able to help us do that is integral. We will sometimes in this creative industry, we'll have changes. When I worked on a movie recently called Ghosted, Dexter Fletcher, who was the director, he came out during Thanksgiving with his wife and scouted DC. He fell in love with some of the suburbs and stuff like that. And he was like, hey, how can we add these to the film? This is way late in the process. And we were able to work with the film office, like, how do we do this and stuff? And we follow the rules. We always do. We always make sure if we're not able to do something, we find a way to make it work, and it's a little bit compromise and stuff like that. I've had a great relationship with them. And they're a big part of what I need to keep going. I need them to be around so that we can stay competitive.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mr. West?
Good morning, Mr. Noonan. How are you? My name is Chuck West. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and CEO and co-founder of OCTFME Productions. We are a full-service production company based here in the DC District of Columbia. I want to take a moment to first express our deepest gratitude to the DC OCTFME office, because if not for them, we've been working in conjunction with them since 2015. We started out with just an idea of storytelling here based in the DC area. At the time, I come from a theater background. During my time with touring stage plays across the country, I always had my love to be able to do productions here in DC. Meeting with the film office starting in 2015 encouraged me that could happen, but we needed a lot of support because at the time there was no real filming done in the DC area. But there was a project here and there, but we decided that what we wanted to do was we wanted to bring projects here because we wanted to help build the infrastructure, film infrastructure here in DC. And we could not have done that without the office of OCTFME. When my wife and I launched Artec, we were storytellers and had the dream, but limited resources. I told you I come from the world of Broadway. With the consistent support of the OCTFME office under Mayor Bowser's administration, we're still committed to uplifting arts and local plays and international award-winning filmmakers. We have created filmmakers, directors, writers, producers. We have that in our infrastructure here based in DC now. And we're starting with production assistants and bringing them to a level where now they are company heads. That's not an easy task. You need a support system. You need a village to make that happen. And the office is part of that village. We're now preparing to present a episodic series for the holiday franchise that we created, the Wesley family, which is based here in DC. We had a 3-picture deal with one of the networks that we wanted to bring that family here and started in DC and ended in DC. We've also created productions starting in DC and shooting them overseas. Last project we did was in South Africa. We're now gearing up for season 3 for episodic series that we have here based in DC as well. Wildly successful on AMC All Black series that we shoot entirely in DC. Also we have been made, all this has been made possible for us to be able to soar because of the office. They help build a pipeline for the next generation of DC creatives, artists, storytellers, entrepreneurs, because then filmmakers can grow when the city grows. And when spotlight shines on their work, on our work, it reflects right back to the nation's capital. We are truly proud to say that we are a production service in DC. We thank Mayor Bowser, we thank Director LaToya Foster, and the hardworking and dedicated professionals of OCTFME and all their unwavering support throughout the life of Artec. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. West.
Good morning, Councilmember Fruman, members of the council and distinguished staff. My name is Bree West, and I'm proud to say that I'm a filmmaker based right here in Washington, D.C. And when I say filmmaker, I mean I'm a producer, I'm an executive producer, a showrunner, a director, and a 2-time NAACP Image Award nominated writer, all being firmly rooted in the nation's capital, but that wasn't always the case. In 2015, under the leadership of Mayor Muriel Bowser and with the support of OCTFME, my husband Chuck and I took a leap of faith. We launched OCTEP Productions with one goal: to tell real, powerful, and distinctly DC stories that reflect voices, communities, and the heartbeat of this incredible city. We started small, a stage play, because that's what we knew. At the time, there wasn't a strong filmmaking infrastructure here. Most of our crew came from New York, Atlanta, and Los Angeles because we didn't have enough local industry support, but we did have a vision, and so did OCTFME. Thankfully, OCTFME saw the vision and said, "We believe in what you're building and we will help you build." That early support became the foundation of something transformational. Today, we filmed 8 DC-based films, produced 16 episodes of television, and we're preparing to launch our largest project to date. That's what growth looks like. And we did it by hiring local. Today, 93% of our cast and crew come from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. We've trained talent, created jobs, helped make filmmaking a viable career path in D.C., and we're not just creating films, we're building futures. The impact extends beyond the set. Every time we film in DC, we hire caterers, book hotels, use local drivers, electricians, students, contractors, healthcare providers, accountants, lawyers, designers, musicians, you name it. Film supports every sector. It's a multiplier for opportunity. And under the dynamic leadership of Director LaToya Foster, OCTFME hasn't just kept pace with this momentum, it's led the charge. Her commitment to making DC a creative hub has transformed the city from a backdrop into a destination, a home, a haven for artists of all races, genders, and backgrounds. When OCTEC grows, the city wins. And when you support OCTFME, you're not just investing in film, you're investing in a workforce development, education, small business, international reach, and cultural legacy of Washington, D.C. We are the most powerful city in the world, and we should be just as powerful in the business of entertainment. Thank you for your time, and thank you for continuing to champion the work of OCTFME. Together, we're building a creative economy where DC doesn't just participate, we lead.
Thank you very much. So wonderful that all three of you came out today. I may not be understanding it completely, but it sounds like you guys do production of original material, or are you doing, is it that an outside party has an idea and you help facilitate that?
We do it all.
Yeah, we actually do both. Yes.
Oh, is that right?
We're a full functioning film production company and studio now. So we can do all of it, from writing our own projects to taking in other projects to working with networks. We have upcoming projects that we're getting ready to do, all because of what started here in the district.
And also collaborating with other production companies in the DC area.
And you have your own studio? Where's your studio?
We're based here in DC. We have offices in DC, but in terms of a physical studio, actually we have 6 trailers. We have a production office. We have a glam trailer. We have 3 two bangers, which are star trailers. And so we are a moving studio. We would love to get a solid, we could speak about that later. We would love to get a space so that we could have a brick and mortar here in the city. But right now we filled the gap of what was missing. And that's having the ability to create the infrastructure here in DC and not having to import all of those trailers when we shoot.
Well, let's just talk briefly about that brick and mortar. So is your idea that you would like to have your own brick and mortar for your company, or you'd like to see a brick and mortar that you could have access to and other production companies might have access to?
The second, our goal is to make sure that everyone who wants to create and has the ability and resources and interest in learning how to create has that access in Washington, DC. So we'd like to see something not only that OCTEC can use, but that every production company that comes to the city and has a need can utilize, because it's so critical and it's so important, because there's certain instances where a physical structure might not be readily available, but if you have the studio space to build and to grow and to do it right within, then automatically it becomes a destination, a viable location for production.
And in terms of trajectory, it sounds like you guys started, Mr. West, in like 2017?
2015.
2015. And then what does it look like? It sounds like it grew. Have you plateaued? Does 2025 look better than 2024? What's the trend line that you're seeing in your business?
For instance, in 2015, we shot 1 production in 2015. Now, last year, we shot 4 productions. Three of those productions was here in DC. We want so the trajectory is not just for us to be able to shoot a number of films here, but to continue to train and have other production companies, producers, writers, directors to have the opportunity to shoot it here in DC as well.
May I also, just to add to that point, we started literally out of pocket change and love and support from family. And I think our first project may have been just barely a little bit over $100,000. And now we're delving into 8-figure projects. And that's all projects that could be possible to be done here in the city if we have the support of the city. And again, it's not just entertainment. Every facet of business gets touched when entertainment comes to the city to film.
No, I definitely hear you. What I'm curious about, because I am supportive of the idea of a brick and mortar studio.
Yeah.
So I'll be transparent. I'm trying to make the case in my own mind and to be able to make it to others. And so what I'm trying to get at is the COVID, it comes in the middle, but post-COVID, it was 24 better than 23, is 25 better than 24? Is your projection for 26 look more promising than 25? Is there a trend line, or have you,
Right.
also a business reaches a capacity.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious what that trend line looks
I
like.
can tell you one thing. One thing that's happened since COVID is called we call it the pivot. We've had to pivot because as soon as COVID happened, then our industry suffered 2 strikes for at least 6 months. We had a writer strike and then we had a SAG after the actor strike. So after that, everything in Hollywood has had to change and had to pivot. And so what's happened here in the district is no exception. But we, Chuck and I, have been very, very actively pursuing every facet of opportunity so that we can continue to grow. So where a lot of what's going on in Hollywood right now is either a stagnant move or it is a plateau just because of what's happening in the industry and the fears with studios, we have now created an infrastructure and a throughway where we have an opportunity for distribution and streaming, which would allow us not only to just produce the 4 or 5 projects that we've done, but also employ other production companies to do the same. So we're going to grow, and we're going to grow infinitely and exponentially because stagnancy is not anything that we do, and going backwards is not a way to move forward.
Okay, and just one more set of questions, and then Mr. Noonan, I'll have a couple for you as well. Then I would think the nature of the industry is not so much that you have full-time employees, but that you have employees that you bring in for different kinds of projects. But what are your employment numbers look like? How many people are you, do you feel like you've employed in 2025 so far?
In our projects, we in each one of our projects, we employ between 30 to 80 employees from the DMV area. So, but for you spoke about, they're normally hired per project. If we create the infrastructure that we want to create here, we'll have that continuous work because they're production companies and producers that in LA and other places that continue, they go from one project to the next. And that's what we're trying to create here. What we didn't say is that next month we are announcing a partnership with a streaming service that wants to use our services to produce 15 to 20 projects a year. So for us to do that, there's no way we can do that by ourselves. So we have to bring in other production companies, other entities to help do that. And we want that set up the infrastructure here in DC.
Yeah, they're based in DC. They're based in LA, of course, but we always bring it back home to DC. And so when we show them other opportunities and give them incentives to come, they're absolutely always willing to come. We've never had an instance where we brought talent or opportunities to the district and our talent hasn't begged to come back to DC. And to your brick and mortar structure that you were asking about, in addition to having a studio, one of the very critical parts of that is also to have kind of a training space, training facility whereby people can learn, because this is not only a great, fun area, it's very gate kept and it's very guarded and it's very hard to break into. So having people with actual experience and the ability to actually learn and grow takes them from, minimum wage jobs to careers making strong 6 figures and sometimes 7, just because of the fact that they took an interest and someone took an interest in them.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Noonan, are you a freelance person who gets hired on different jobs? Do you have a company? How does your business work?
Sure. I am freelance. So generally freelance, it was quite a scary move. My parents were adamantly against, but I've been freelance from the very beginning. I've grown up in the Washington, D.C. area. I started off at National Geographic, working on a show called Explorer in their office. And then I decided to go freelance completely and I've never turned back. So.
And do you do production or do you do the filming itself? What role do you play?
So as a location manager, I'm involved in all aspects of the filming. So generally this is what happens. I get a phone call. Hey, I'm a producer or I'm working on a project and we're looking to film X, Y, and Z, and from there I'll tell them, hey, you can do this, you can't do this. Let me go out, or I'll go out and scout. So I'll generally take photos and show them the locations. My job does not stop there. Then from there, I was like, okay, so you're interested in these locations, and start talking to the locations. And generally I show them what's possible. And then from there, I'll send them a budget. Like, this is what it's going to costs for you to film here for 3 days, 4 days. These are the police you're going to need. These are the general things you're going to need in my purview. I'll recommend some local line producers and people in the area to help them for those aspects, for them to hire local crew. And then from there, when they do come, then I handle all the permits for the city, hire the police. I'll talk to the task force about general filming if we're doing any road closures. I'll involve DPW as far as for towing or any of those aspects. We'll hang up all the no parking signs with my phone number on each sign so everyone knows how to call and yell at me. But we'll generally do all those things. And at the very end, I'll clean it all up, make sure it's all there. I take photos before it starts and afterwards to make sure we restore everything the way it was.
Very cool. So, kind of the same question that I was asking here, which is the phone ringing more or less now?
The phone is definitely ringing a little bit less, but I do have projects that are talking to me about coming in October. We are always going to have media content. We're always going to have these things. I think right now we're seeing similar to the pandemic where we didn't know how to film inside. What do we do with these COVID rules? How do we film large scenes with 300 people and how do we do this? Those were logistical things we had to figure out. And there was a transition period. Streaming became dominant. And so everyone wanted to be the next Netflix, in which we're seeing right now. But I've also gone through the period. I worked on the first 3 Transformers movies, and I literally was there with the director and the producer the day that James Cameron's Avatar movie came out. And when all of a sudden, oh wait, 3D movies can make we're seeing just a transition of technology. So I think we're seeing streaming right now, but when it comes down to it, people going to the theater, that experience is where they're going to make the most money. And that's what's dictating things. I do think that we're seeing growth in the new media. My son, who's here watching today, he loves his YouTube. I think that those aspects are going to start growing as well. I also think you mentioned it earlier, studio space is something productions ask me all the time when they come here. If we're here in DC for a limited amount of time, unfortunately, sometimes longer, but like, hey, what do we do when it rains? What do we do when it protests? We have all these crew there. Having a space would be amazing. And I think, what do you do when those productions aren't here? How many universities do we have in this area that don't have a legitimate film program that's really competitive? Having that space and saying to the city, having it and saying, hey, all of you create a film program and we have a space or stage and then supplement it that way. I would love to. I've already gone to Howard and talked to students, about the film industry. There's an active interest. I think we can foster that and create more creativity.
Do any of our universities have a vibrant film
Yes.
They
department?
have a pretty
Yeah.
film, but I don't think it's
American University is doing amazing with their film program and project. Fine Arts with Howard is doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of Washington, DC, there's always growth and opportunity for growth. But I think that what's happening is that people are understanding the economics of filmmaking and the opportunities that present, especially given the fact that, to your point, there's so many platforms now and streaming opportunities. The content is king. And even right now, it's funny because you ask about what's going on this year. This year is real tricky because so many things are changing and shifting. So it's hard to say that this is kind of the year that dictates everything. But what is starting to happen in this quarter of this season right now is that people are ordering, people are buying. We just picked up 3 more projects, or the interest in going forward on discussing and negotiating 3 more big projects only because it's picking up.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you very much. UDC, does UDC have a film program?
I mean, I've worked with members of them for the DC Film Festival. I'm not aware if they have a film program, but I'm saying I think we can make it all grow. Every major city every capital city of every other country out there, that the film programs are usually there, like the vibrant. So why not DC? It seems unfair.
So I hear you on your parents being nervous when you decided to be a freelancer. Yeah. My sister-in-law's brother is a sound guy and a freelancer. He's put together a great life. Mm-hmm. It's really then last for this panel, did you overlap with Dave Hamlin at National Geographic? David Hamlin?
I did. This is my years were back in like 2000 and 2001 to 2002 when I finally switched over to going freelance.
he's a dear friend. Maybe I'll use the cable network to advertise a little. He's doing a viewing at Angelica today of his new documentary about China and the deep love of basketball in China.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Apparently, whatever film it is that he made has had 100 million views in China.
Wow. This is a film, this is a Light Reel Film Festival that he's showing for it. Angelica Pop-Up, that's one of the, we were the opening movie. We have a movie that we shot here at Eastern High School with the help of OCTFME last summer. And we released it. We had our worldwide premiere yesterday, and we're going to go up to Martha's Vineyard Film Festival where we're going to be premiering it again as an official selection. But that's another point. The Spirit Film Festival has over 82 films, the majority of which were shot here in the district, that they're showing right this weekend, just to show that there's a vibrant community here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. But I'm going to now move on to the next panel.
Thank you.
Okay. For our virtual witnesses, Amy Austin and Ron Moten. You should be elevated to become panelists. Okay, Ms. Austin, are you ready?
Yes, Chairman, I am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Austin, and I'm President and CEO of Theater Washington. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. The essential work of this agency is critical to the strength and visibility of Washington's creative economy. At Theater Washington, our mission is to support, strengthen, recognize, and celebrate our city's theater community. We do this through key programs, which include Taking Care, Theater Week, Theater Summit, and Theater Work, and the Helen Hayes Awards, as well as through our ongoing advocacy training and convening. And we are always grateful for OCTFME's support, one of the few district governments agencies wholly dedicated to nurturing and elevating the arts in Washington. The arts industry, as you've just heard, is more than culture. It's an economic engine for the city, and we are still recovering from the pandemic. The sector continues to face significant challenges. We have opportunity and responsibility to position Washington, D.C. as a city known for thriving and inclusive arts ecosystems that encompass theater, music, dance, visual arts, and film. And I think importantly, we are known as a community of collaborators, not competitors. We are a creative economy, attracts businesses and residents to our great city. Federal agencies have been under attack. Federal arts agencies have been under attack. During his second term, President Donald Trump has taken sweeping actions to defund and dismantle key federal arts and cultural institutions. These moves have a direct and chilling effect on our local arts community. This makes the role of district agencies like OCTFME even more vital. We need local institutions to remain strong, to serve as a foundation for resilience, innovation, opportunity, and to give voice to creatives. OCTFME offers critical infrastructure for our creative economy. The Creative Economy Career Access Program provides media literacy training and job placement for underserved residents, building pathways to sustainable careers. The 202 Creates initiative supports local artists, entrepreneurs with events, workshops, and networking. And OCT also facilitates, as we just heard, film, TV, and music production in the district, directly creating more employment and exposure for local artists. In addition, their role in producing government media and managing platforms like DCN, DKN, and DC Radio help amplify local stories and talent. These efforts knit together a more cohesive and empowered creative sector that we cannot do without, especially in these uncertain times. The arts enrich our city. They also support our restaurants, public transportation, and nightlife. We bring people together. We bring life to the streets. The arts are both cultural and economic drivers, and they're exactly what the city needs right now. Thank you for your time. And that was a pretty good 3 minutes right there.
Yeah, you stuck the landing. Is Mr. Moten? Ron, I see your screen, but you need to turn your camera and your microphone on. Maybe what we will do is try to give Ron a second to join, but in the interim, maybe Ms. Austin, I'll just ask a couple of questions from you. Tell me again the name of the organization that you're affiliated?
I am Theater Washington. So we work with theaters across the region and most of which are in DC. So this is performing arts theaters like Kennedy Center, Arena Stage, Shakespeare, Mosaic, Studio, Rorschach, etc.
And so then are you part of, is this an advocacy organization or?
We do
what's
some
the-
advocacy work, but our programs are what are central. So I think the program that intersects here, there's a couple of programs that we do that intersect with the vision and the work of OCTFME that I've worked with them on. One is what we call theater work. So we have on our website profiles of 300 plus working creatives. So when I say artists, most people think of performers, of which we have a strong community of, but we also have technicians and designers and costumers and production managers, stage managers, et cetera. And these jobs are transferable between theater and film. It's not the same industry, but there's alignment. And often, people will move from theater to film or film to theater, et cetera. So we have job postings. We have work profiles for the industry so people can find people if they're looking for someone to join their teams. And we post job opportunities there. And then we do in the fall a program called Theater Week, which is promotion of the theater industry, largely where we're making people aware what a large and robust industry that we have in the Washington area, in the performing arts sector in particular.
And I do think that it's striking. I think sometimes people refer to that we have the second most number of theaters of any city on the East Coast or something like that. Is that correct?
It's the most seats per capita outside of any other city in the nation. We like to think we're second to New York, and there's different measurements for that. But, we have an incredibly strong theater community that people travel from all over to come see. And that's part of what we do at Theater Week, is to raise that tourism voice for coming to see theater in DC. But it's here year round, 365 days a week. There's a great production, somewhere near you.
People approach me periodically with ideas about a new theater here or a new performance space here. And I wondered your reaction.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll be with you in a second, Ron. What your reaction on, have we Are we at risk of saturation, or is there, on the filming side, I see like we need a brick and mortar facility and there's a lot of upward potential. In the theater space, is it that, have we hit where we should be, or do we need?
I think there's there's a lot of different kinds of spaces, right? So I know there's been talk about building a new sort of big Broadway house. But we also, the council has also promised funding to National Theater, which is, a place that serves, and also the Kennedy Center has always served. So for my reaction is that what we need is more accessibility to black box spaces, which are more versatile spaces that different companies can come in and use because it has the infrastructure that you need to do theater. It has a lighting grid, it has a lighting board, it has, seating that's flexible, so you can create the environment that you want. I mean, that's what's at risk at the district, is there's not enough black box spaces.
All right, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. I think, Mr. Moten, if you are ready, if we could have you unmute and turn your camera on.
How do I turn the camera on? I'm looking at it.
I think it's on the taskbar. There's the little thing that looks like a camera.
Okay, I see it. I see the thing beside the camera. Oh, here we go. Is that me?
Not quite yet, but
Oh, no, it's not. Hold on 1 second.
So.
You know how to get this.
Usually this is where we are.
thing is, we all know what you look like, Ron. So even if we don't get the
We have a big tour for
there you go. There you go.
Smithsonian Museum downtown, and so I'm a little late. I'm sorry. How you all doing?
Very good. Very good. Always great to see you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to testify on behalf of the Go-Go Museum, how this agency has helped us and so many artists of the District of Columbia. For those who don't know, some time ago, music was taken out of DC public schools, and it was devastating for our schools, all right? And when it was taken out of our schools, it hurt the culture. Just like when they took the trades out of DC public schools for 30 years, when the control board came and did this horrendous act to our city. And what happened was gradually the culture started deteriorating with that and the criminalization of the culture. Also, we took away venues and activities for young people to go and participate, learning their history and culture. And when that happens, young people start creating their own situations where we see what we see out in the community, what we don't like sometimes down at the Wharf and places like that. Working with this agency, we have basically helped artists produce events, young children in schools learn how to play go-go again, learn music again, have something to be proud of. And when I tell you that how go-go and music saves lives, like if you talk to any of the go-go artists, they would tell you the thing that kept them out of prison was go-go. You know, seeing my 5-year-old son come in here and curate the museum just lets me know if our children are exposed to these things at an early age, what can happen. These events that they do in the community, not only do they bring people from our community out and DMV out and bring revenue to the community, it also tells the world about our history and culture, which brings tourists in, like they come into the museum. Our mobile museum bus, 80% of it came from a funder, but they helped us finish it. So we're able to go to schools, community events, like we will be in the Pride Parade this week, showing DC's music and culture to the world. And anything that the artists that I know who are in reason ask the agency for, they try their best to help. And this is so important because a lot of these artists would not be able to operate without the resources that they have. Our children who need to learn how to play music again, our programs in Duke Ellington and Teaching for Change and all the other people who are funded, all the different artists who are doing these different things. It's so very important. So I just take my hat off to them of how they've affected the culture. They given people chances to come inside the studio to record and basically bring back the culture to the point where we on to something now in DC. where the world is about to see something different. So we must maintain these programs. We must maintain the funding for these programs, because what we quick to do, things that are working, we wipe them away during hard times. These are things that we cannot wipe away. It took us 30 years to get in this position, and we cannot afford to go backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, when you talked about the schools, it put me in, I grew up outside of Detroit, and there's a book, Once in a Great City, about Detroit in the 60s. And one of the things about Detroit in the 50s and 60s is a lot of good union jobs, a lot of people earning middle class incomes, and in the Detroit school system, they had a fabulous music program. And there was also a music store called Grinnell's that was there when I was there, that sold instruments at affordable prices. And that's where Motown came from.
Yes.
Martha Reeves tells a story of her second grade music teacher and how that launched her career. So I'm with you. Music in school sounds like a nice to have, but it's a need to have. And so thank you for the role that
But
you're
the other
playing
thing
in
too,
that.
that Rare Essence started in Ballou, EU started in Ballou, Listen started at Eastern. We can go on and on. The Junkyard started at Ballou. All of these people met each other, started playing in bands and learning music in school. And also, it takes up the morale of the school. So these programs are definitely very important. And if you learn how to play music, you normally know how to do math very well. So all of it's hand in hand. So like I appreciate, like I said, we really appreciate what they've done for our community.
So I hear you, and our paths cross, but I haven't seen you for a bit. We're on the elevator, getting on and off the
Yes.
elevator. So the Go-Go Museum, and I still have to come. I apologize, I missed.
Come for Juneteenth. We doing something big for Juneteenth.
Okay, let me look into it. I have I have a thing I like to go to the Faith Leaders event at the Our Lady of Perpetual Hope, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna be able to do that because I have something for let me see.
But we used to have a lot of go-go's there too, man. Go-go's used to be there, the panorama room, and going to other countries. We see how taking go-go's from the church disconnects the community from the church. So that's something we need to bring back too. We got to study the history. I'm learning as I go.
I'm sure you are. So, but closer to home for you, I haven't checked in with you what's happening with the Secret Garden. I mean, there was a time when there was a little bit of a challenge, and is that being used as part of the museum, or is it being used, or where does that stand, the Secret
Yes,
Garden?
actually, Nike came here, did a big event for the Jordan brand in the Secret Garden with students from all over the world.
Really?
50 basketball players from all over the world. And right now, they're finishing it. We had to stop using it so they can go back and complete it. And we have students from DYRS next week making this bucket wall that's going to basically do a tribute to the Junkyard Band, because they started playing on buckets when they couldn't afford their instruments. So that will be complete by 6/19, and you should come and see it.
All right. All right. And then when you talk about it's new, so it's a challenge to get folks to come out, but what's it look like in terms of folks coming out and visiting the Go-Go Museum?
Oh, we don't have a challenge getting people to come out, but we have a challenge with our capacity of having the staff here every day. We average 150 people every Saturday. Right now, we have 30 people from the National African Museum of History and Culture in here right now doing the tour. Yesterday, we got schools, senior centers, everybody coming. So our problem is with capacity to have people here every day, because we don't have an operating budget. So we pretty much operate off of volunteers right now. So getting people here is not a problem. The problem is having staff to be here every day. And the people leave here and they go eat at the restaurants in Anacostia. So we're like an anchor business. All right. And then with the threat of the museum being closed in Anacostia, which I hope doesn't happen because they're a very great asset to our community. If that happens, then we really will be a great need over here.
I mean, is it that the museum may be closed or is closed for renovations? And
No, Budget cuts from the Trump administration. They're cutting the budget.
Wait, is this the Anacostia Community Museum or
Yes,
the?
yes, Anacostia Community Museum. I'm sorry, yeah.
I see. Oh, my, really? Okay.
Yes.
I was not aware of that. I mean, I have heard,
See, I want y'all to see all the people in here right now. See, Professor Hawkinson is doing the tour right now.
oh, say hello for me. Where
Matt
are you?
Furman said hi, Natalie.
Who was that?
Matt Furman said hi.
How you doing?
Hey, Natalie, good to see you. Okay, we got to keep it serious here for a second. So I've seen stuff about talking about Anacostia. I saw something about the Playhouse being in trouble, but I also thought I saw something maybe is the art center it's the art center that's going to be renovated.
Yeah, the art center is being renovated, so they'll be closed for the next year.
And the Playhouse has been in trouble, if I can interrupt. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're getting it's my fault, but we're getting off topic. So you go back and enjoy what you're doing. Thank
All
you
right.
very much for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank
All right.
you. Talk to you later. All right. All right, we will now be joined by LaToya Foster, the Director of the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. So Director Foster, if you could join us at the table along with any other staff who plan to testify. Wonderful. It is the practice of this committee to place our government witnesses under oath. Director Foster and any other agency employees who might be testifying today, including those in the audience, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Human Services is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Wonderful. You may begin your testimony.
I'm LaToya Foster. I'm the Director of the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, also known as OCT. I appreciate the opportunity to present our fiscal year 26 budget and share how OCTFME can deliver high-impact services, promote economic opportunities, and ensure transparency in government communication. The mayor's fiscal year 26 budget and financial plan, the growth agenda, represents a forward-looking strategy for economic resilience, equity, and innovation. OCTFME is proud to be a key contributor to this agenda. Our work drives inclusive economic development and resilience, connects residents to workforce pathways, and ensures that the district government remains visible and accountable through trusted public broadcast media,
Sports and technology. There we go.
The thing
OCTF.
is you project so much, many of us didn't notice.
I said, I got to do my best here. It looks like we have a little tech problem here, but we got this. OCTFME's mission is comprised of several roles within the district government. As regulators, we oversee the district's cable television service providers and their compliance with franchise agreements and applicable district and federal laws, manage franchise renewals, and provide cable customer service and support by investigating customer complaints and directly facilitating resolution of customer service issues with the cable service providers. As the district government's communications hub, OCTFME operates and programs multimedia platforms to provide transparent access to the government process and an array of diverse programming and services that promote, educate, enlighten, and empower our residents and beyond. As the creative economy catalyst, we promote film, television, music, digital media, and live entertainment, providing framework, funding, and support to attract major national and international productions, grow local creative industries, and boost tourism. This combined mission allows us to strengthen the city's broadcast media, entertainment, sports, and communications infrastructure while creating tangible economic and cultural returns that drive DC's creative economy forward. The mayor's fiscal year 26 proposed budget for OCTFME totals $14.5 million, including $7.7 million in local funds, $6.8 million in special purpose revenue funds, and 56.3 FTEs, which includes 21 supported by local funding and 35 supported through SPR funds. Despite this year's budgetary adjustment, OCTFME will maintain full service delivery by operating efficiently, investing in in-house production, and strategically reallocating resources. Our broadcast and radio is a 24/7 civic engagement infrastructure as we continue to manage and program the district's public educational and government access PEG cable channels, including the District of Columbia Network, the District Council Channel, the District Knowledge Network, and our global streaming channel DCE, and operates DC Radio 96.3 HD4 in partnership with Howard University Radio WHUR. These platforms provide over 1,200 hours of original content annually. They broadcast live and recorded coverage of mayoral press conferences, council hearings, and agency and citywide events, provide emergency alerts, and public affairs content. Our production and programming team will continue to develop and produce award-winning television programming focused on our youth and education, public safety, business, economic development, and workforce development, and the diverse culture, lifestyles, and talents of district residents. OCTFME's production and programming division also provides content development, production, and post-production services to district government agencies as well as the private sector. These services include script writing, studio filming, post-production editing, voiceover recording, and DC Radio's podcast production. OCTFME administers the DC Film, Television and Entertainment Rebate Fund, a film production incentive program that fuels economic growth of entertainment and sports in Washington, D.C. Since fiscal year 2016, 81 projects have qualified for the rebate program, including 37 from local production companies. $213.1 million in total economic impact has been generated, and over 2,000 jobs have been created for DC creators. And for every $1 of public investment, it has yielded a return on investment of $14.54. Recent blockbuster movies and television series productions filmed right here in our city include Marvel's Captain America: Brave New World, Amazon Prime's Cross, and Netflix's Zero Day, reinforcing the city's status as both a location and a character in global storytelling. In addition to motion picture and television projects, the Rebate Fund has supported a wide variety of other distributed projects, including professional boxing, mixed martial arts, esports events, as well as music festivals. Examples include the DC Jazz Festival, the hit game show Jeopardy, Rock Nation Boxing, the Professional Fighters League Championships, Blast Premier Esports Finals, and the NBA 2K Esports Series. These productions not only elevate our global visibility, they spark tourism, spending, and job creation across all 8 wards. Through our Creative Affairs Office and our 202 Creates platform, we are empowering artists and entrepreneurs from all 8 wards. DC's arts sector contributes $15 billion to our local economy and supports 50,000 creative jobs. Since its inception, 202 Creates has saved DC residents an estimated $4.3 million by providing its participants with free resources and space to work and create. We have also welcomed over 1,500 entrepreneurs to community building events. Our city's Go-Go People's Plan was created to archive, preserve, and promote go-go as the official music of Washington, D.C. And since fiscal year 2021, OCTFME's Go-Go Support Program has distributed over $4 million. Curriculum and equipment investments have been made to our next generation of creative students from Howard University, the University of the District of Columbia, and Duke Ellington School of the Arts. The 202 Creates residency program has served over 250 DC residents with training, mentorship, and business development across all 8 wards. Through our Care for Creatives program, which is our mental health support program in partnership with the George Washington University, we offer affordable pay-what-you-can care for DC creatives, a first-of-its-kind service in the region. At OCTFME, we are building the next generation of creative leaders and ensuring access to non-traditional careers in production, broadcasting, music, entertainment, sports, and media technology. Chairperson Fruman, we understand your commitment to fiscal responsibility, program integrity, and public trust, and OCTFME shares those same values. We are maximizing limited resources through internal production. We are creating jobs and stimulating tourism through strategic film and media investments. We are supporting the creative workforce through targeted programs and funding, and we deliver reliable, accessible public communication 24/7. We want to thank our Mayor, Muriel Bowser, for her continued support, and we thank this committee for its oversight. OCTFME recognizes that our city is strong and growing when it has a strong, growing creative economy. We will continue to inform, inspire, and innovate on behalf of every district resident. We look forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Foster.
Thank you.
And I mean, you're right in that I'm concerned, everybody is concerned about making every dollar go as far as we can. And some of my questions are going to go to how those dollars are reported in the budget to in order to ensure there's transparency around it, but also things that are critically important or protected because they're identified as being funded by a different line item. So
Yes.
likely I will have a series of questions around things like that. Before getting there, though, I got a little nostalgic talking with Ron Moten about music and the Detroit area where I grew up. And a different thing from where I grew up, and I think it's about a time, not a place. High school sports were big, and people followed it. In the newspaper, it was the front page of the sports page that reported on high school sports. And high school sports have a very difficult time competing for attention in the District of Columbia with the Washington Post as the paper of record. You guys produce a lot of content. Have you ever considered producing content around high school sports, covering football games, covering basketball games. It's not that you would cover every single one, but it seems like an opportunity where we could elevate our kids and create opportunities for folks to build content. Have you ever done it? Do you think about doing it? How does that fit into the landscape?
Well, thank you for that question, Councilmember Fruman. And actually, on our District Knowledge Network, we broadcast a number of our high school sports, our games, our basketball games, football games, and so forth. We have some original programming called DKN Sports that hones in exactly on what you're speaking of. So yes, not only have we thought about it, we've been doing it, and we continue to do that. We find it just as important as you do, actually.
So it shows, I don't know about it, so I don't know,
Yeah.
getting that out. And so folks, and I don't know what's the best way to get it out. But I'm glad to hear that. A different thing, you heard me asking the folks in the industry, what do the trends look like?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you can speak to how now I'm in the film and film rebate world.
Yeah.
When dollars are short, you're looking for ways to multiply dollars. And so the film rebate, to the extent that it becomes important to attracting productions, it more than pays for itself. But where do you think we are in terms of 2023 looked like this, 2024 looks like this, 2025 looks like this, and your expectations about 2026?
Well, I'm going to turn that over to our Associate Director of our Film Division, Herbert Niles. But I will say, based on what we're seeing in our office, we are not short of productions coming into Washington, D.C. There are a number of productions that are coming here, especially during the summer months. We're seeing permits coming in at a it's an uptick, let me just say that. We know that we have seen a lot of major productions come here in recent times. One was even just here last weekend filming again. But I will turn it over to Herbert to give you more in greater detail about some of the uniqueness of what's taking place this year in comparison to previous years.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, Chairman. So the best way I think I could answer that question is to say that the entertainment industry is a cyclical industry. And there are a lot of factors that go into the rise and fall of demand for production and content. As Chuck and Bree and Matt mentioned, there's been a lot of volatility in the industry nationally because of COVID and then major union strikes. But for DC, what we have found is a pretty consistent demand for permitting and for our rebate fund. We'll say this, we never have, in the last 8 years, except for COVID, we've never had rebate fund money on the table at the end of the fiscal year. It's always demand to come here. What I told someone when I did a presentation in front of the industry in Los Angeles was that the one thing that's unique about the District of Columbia is that there'll always be films written about power and politics and Washington, D.C. Westerns come and go, certain genres come and go, but there will always be projects that need D.C. as a backdrop. And it's a matter of if it's filmed here or if it's duplicated elsewhere. So the short answer to your question is, we have seen a consistent demand to film here over the years, except for some blips here and there because of strikes and COVID. But for example, we never end the fiscal year with money on the table for the rebate fund. There's always more demand than funding.
And how does it work? What's the lag time? Because if somebody applies for a rebate, they're probably not applying for a rebate for production in 2 weeks. They're probably applying for, so how does that?
Yeah, so on average, it's a little different depending on the project and the type of project. For example, if you have a narrative project like a movie feature, right? They can film, normally they'll submit an application because they want to make sure that we can help with all of the logistic support, city services. So on average, we get an outreach 3 to 6 months before they come. And usually someone like Matt and the team of location managers that work regularly in the region will give us the heads up. This project is coming. Either they'll reach out to us or we'll proactively reach out to them and say, we're here, you're coming. We have all these services from the city. How can we make your experience here the most positive, both creatively and logistically, but also financially for your company so you'll come again? It's about relationship building and driving economic impact for the District of Columbia. So usually 3 to 6 months ahead of time, and then we review it. If they get pre-certified into the program, they get what's called a pre-certification letter, which means based on your best good faith estimate, which they put in their application of the qualifying expenditures that they will spend in the city for their project, we make a preliminary estimate of a rebate cap. So based on your estimate, you may receive, if you return an expenditure report that's independently reviewed and it's certified by the District of Columbia, you may receive up to but not to exceed a certain rebate, right? So after that letter goes out, then we proceed with helping them make their logistical experience in DC a success. So after they finish filming, right? So normally the timeline after that for a narrative film is if DC is the last city they film in, maybe about 3 months later, they will submit their expenditure report, right? And so it takes us about 1 to 2 months to review and certify the independently audited report. So the timeline really from when we first have a touch point with a client to when they submit their application, to when they're accepted into the program, to when they're approved for a rebate can be a year, right? And then also for something like a documentary, documentaries film on a much longer timeline because they, put things in the can, they do interviews, they hold the interviews. So part of what we do is manage both when what we call the production activity is going to happen, and then also when they'll be able to deliver the required deliverables in order to receive the rebate.
So you should be having some visibility of things that might be coming in 26 at
Sure.
this point. And does that, I hear you that it's cyclical, I hear that, but does 2026 look like it's going to be a good year for us to track productions, or how does that look?
It does. So, obviously we have non-disclosure policies with regard to applicants that haven't yet been accepted into the program. And also our applicants like a little bit of confidentiality about their projects. But based on what we're reviewing now for the next fiscal year, off the top of my head, we have 1 major streaming service feature film. We have 2 major streaming service series that are filming, their next season here. We have 2 documentaries. We have 2 independent films, including one confidentially from Chuck and Bree that we're discussing with them. And then 1 music.
Good job at confidentiality.
Yeah. And then 1 music festival. So that for us for us to have those in discussions, and we're not even at the end of this fiscal year, that pretends to be a very strong year because we follow up on those. That's like the first half of that fiscal year. We are sure to get demand once the fiscal year begins. The industry starts coming to us with things that are going to film in the winter and the spring and the summer. So the short answer to your question is it's looking strong for 26.
Okay, and I think while I'm on this rebate fund, I think it looks like there's about $60,000 still in the fund. Is that we're 4 months out from the end of the fiscal year? Is that spoken for? Is that hoping for folks to come that they'd have an application and
It's currently spoken for.
is more than that spoken for?
Well, we can't speak for more than we have in the
I
budget.
see.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could do you have the capacity to look elsewhere in your budget if you have extra dollars? If you have somebody,
Well, again, as you're well aware, because of the,
Yeah.
you know, federal intervention and interference, we do have some challenges and restrictions on finding funds and moving it around. So, you know, knock on wood, if we're able to be freed up by the middle of the summer, we definitely would. We always continue to pursue and beat the bushes for more opportunities.
but at some point, it takes a little bit. So at some point, whatever you're working on is more about FY 26 than at this point, but what you have for right now is spoken for in
Yeah.
FY 25. Okay, before I get to my questions, we invariably have the conversation about a studio, which we've talked about before, production studio. I don't know where that stands. We talked about it last time, but maybe if somebody could bring me up to speed on how you're thinking about a brick and mortar studio, whether there's been any progress in any way on that. I'm curious to hear.
Thank you for that, council member. We've actually had conversations with DEMPED and the deputy mayor, Albert, about potential sites that we could use for a studio space, as well as activating some of the vacant properties, specifically those in downtown. I do know that our general counsel, Lawrence Cooper, has also been in communication with the developer who holds the properties over on the former BET campus that has made that available for use on a case-by-case basis. But yes, we do continue to have conversations because we do understand the need for that here in our city. And I'll turn that over to Lawrence to describe in more detail.
Yes, we continue to engage in conversations with the current owner of that property.
Is that Douglas Development?
Yes, and obviously that property is built on DC government land. So there are ground leases that provide what were the two agencies that merged in to create OCTFME, the ability to refer projects to that facility. So we've been doing that over the years, not as much recently. They've had some other activities that were going on in there, but we remain in contact with them. And that is always one option. And I will say that Herbie and the film group is always poised to support any entities that are looking for space. And there are options. It's just would be easier if it was one consistent option. But there, and depending on the scope of the productions, what the actual needs, you heard the whole black box scenario. So the needs differ. And so we try to assist them in that regard. And that former BET campus facility is one of the options that we still use.
So it's not in this budget year. I would like to try to be supportive of this initiative to get a brick and mortar studio. It does seem to me like that's the kind of thing that can unlock a potential that can pay for itself over time. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think I would encourage you to keep me informed on this because I would like to be an ally. And I don't know whether or not an answer. I understand the deputy mayor, folks want to do as much as they possibly can downtown. My instinct is the BET site where it is a more natural site for something like that and starts down the road. I think we've talked about this before, that it may not be cutting edge in terms of the technology, but it's pretty darn good that it's been improved at different times. So getting over the finish line to a cutting edge facility there seems like probably not the heaviest lift.
Yeah, there have been, well, they're dated now, but studies to kind of upgrade that facility. to make it cutting edge, but certainly, particularly where there's just the need for a space and it's soundproof. And so it has that, it has the flexibility to be used for a lot. So yes.
Well, let's stay together because I'd like to try to help. And I don't know what Douglas Development's long-term plans are. I've worked with Douglas Development over the years. Love to reach out to them about this. It's a missing piece and it's achievable, it seems to me. It's not achievable in this budget, but could it be achievable at a different time? All right, so at the oversight hearing, I think we talked a fair amount about the Creative Economy Career Access Program, where you have, it's not a huge number of participants, but there's, a number of participants who are trained in careers that can be very promising. I talked about my sister-in-law's brother, who's a sound person, and leads a great life.
Yeah.
He gets a call. He works super hard for 2 weeks, and then he might take a week off, but my understanding from your hearing response was that this might not be happening now, that we might not have cohorts in that program
So
currently.
only for this fiscal year, because of the adjustments that have been made in the budget. For fiscal year 25, we have had to pause the CCAP program. However, we have been in very close communication, and constant communication actually, with the director of the Department of Employment Services, Director Unique Morris Hughes. And we look forward to in fiscal year 26, she's made a commitment. We've committed to working together to bring CCAP back in fiscal year 26.
So I'm glad to hear that, because it
Yeah.
sounds like a
It's
great
very
thing.
important.
And I serve on the Workforce Investment Council with Unique Morris Hughes. This committee also has oversight over the Department of Human Services. We're in a place where both the city and the federal government are moving towards work requirements for public benefits. And it's always been the case that connecting people to work and promising work is a critical thing, but it's even more urgent now.
Yeah.
Because for lots of reasons. So this isn't the program that solves the problem, but 100 programs like this help. So is it just that CCAP got paused for this fiscal year because of the constraints imposed by the stuff happening at the federal level?
Yes, that's correct.
But has it happened earlier in the fiscal year? Or is the way in which the timing is folks apply, if I'm remembering correctly, they apply in the spring and then so it wouldn't have, did you have applicants and then you couldn't go forward?
And I'll turn that over to Associate
Yeah,
Director.
so
Knox.
the way it worked, unfortunately, it was a bit of a gut punch to have that federal intervention happen in the cycle that it did. So to your point, yes, we had begun the preliminary cycle that we do every year, which is we have an application. Well, we don't call it an application. The first step is called an interest form, where a district resident will let us know that they're interested in the program once the selection process begins. As we began the final establishment of the administrative calendar was when the freeze happened. And so the thing about the freeze is, even if it's budgeted between our agency and DOES, if the program hadn't begun, we can't disperse the funds that we had budgeted. So we have several programs and initiatives that are budgeted that we currently are frozen on expenditures. And where the overlap happened, that, a perfect storm for CCAP is both a spending and a hiring freeze. And since this program is a workforce development program that is actually a paid program, it was frozen both because it's considered an employment program, and it was frozen because it was an expenditure as well. So that's what caught us.
Okay. It's too bad.
Yeah.
The, I was talking with a friend. The, the pain that comes from what Congress has done is not, we're not seeing furloughs. We're not seeing cuts in core services, but the pain is happening in a lot of different places, and this is one of them.
Well, if I can interject, you can only imagine the district residents that look forward to this opportunity every year and difficult conversations, people that are just, I'm waiting for the spring, it's going to start up, right? And a lot of these people have put in their interest forms the summer before, in the winter, and they're looking forward to the spring, and then, this happens. It was rough.
Do you have the capacity to do a larger cohort next year?
Well, that is dependent on funding and budgeting availability. So as Director Foster mentioned, we do this program in concert with DOES. So the way it kind of works is DOES is kind of the funding source and provides the infrastructure for paying the trainees. And we are the operational and administrative partner. And so we identify the DC residents, we coordinate and identify the employer partner mentors for the program. We work with DCTV and firm up the training program piece of it. So it's kind of a partnership, right? And so each year, depending on what the final budget turns out to be for all our agencies and what's available from, Department of Labor, which, many of us you're familiar with, many of our workforce being on the WIC, workforce development and training programs are kind of stipulated on how that funding from Department of Labor happens as well. So again, it's a conversation that once the final budget for the next fiscal years is formalized, we get together with DOES and we plan out how the scale and size that we can support.
And so it's interesting because it goes to the next kind of question, and I foreshadowed this a little, is that I don't see a line for CCAP, but part of the reason for that might be is that much of the funding is not in your budget.
Yes, DOES. Yeah.
And so I want to protect CCAP, but I don't know how to do it in your budget. But it's really, I need to be looking at DOES because that's where the dollars are going to come from. And so your capacity to do CCAP isn't dependent on your budget, it's dependent on DOES's
Right.
budget.
That's correct.
And in terms of your budget, it's like partly built into your salary. You're doing the administration. So I can't find it unless I saw a 1/3 of your salary is this, 1/3 of your salary is that. Okay. But did we have an issue in FY24 also about CCAP? Were we able to do CCAP last year, or were there budget constraints that made it an issue last year?
Yeah, there was another budget constraint last year. We did not. This is the 2 straight years we haven't been able to do it.
What was the, I get it this year. What was the issue last year?
That's not my wheelhouse, like, what happens with, reprogramming and, there was something that happened in that fiscal year that we were
At
not able to do.
DOES?
It was a combination of DOES and us. Again, I'm just told when we're able to advance it administratively. I don't recall what the dollar situation was in the previous fiscal year, but I do know that there were specific budget pressures in that fiscal year that kept us from doing it. Yeah.
Well, that's tough because now 2 years of disappointed folks, it's sort of, okay, well, I don't know how from a budget perspective to protect it, but because the dollars for it primarily are in DOES. But related to this, there are other things that are dotted around. I'm not sure exactly where they are, but 202 creates the Mayor's Arts Award, the Go-Go Support Program for that matter. Um, uh, Where, where in your budget lines do I find those things? And are there separate lines? Would it make sense for them to be all in the same place and articulated what the funding is for each one? We're grappling with trying to provide budget oversight and making sure that we can understand things as clearly as possible and the public can. Where do they fit into your budget, into the way in which the budget is expressed now? And could there be advantages to bringing them together under one umbrella and articulating them?
For the budget lines, I'm going to turn to our AFO, Cassandra Fields, but at this time, they are on two separate budget lines, but Cassandra can go into greater detail.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sure.
Good morning, Chairperson Fruman. They are on two separate lines. There is a specific line for the Creative Affairs Office. And under that office, that's where you're going to have the Mayor's Arts Awards, as well as the 202 Creates.
But are
programs.
those the only two things under that line, or there's many things under that line and those two are included in it?
Those two are included, but the director can speak a little bit more to that. The Go-Go line is its own separate line within the local budget.
Its own separate line.
Yes.
And 202 Creates in the Mayor's Arts Awards, they're included in a line among many other things, but they're not articulated as an individual amount. Is that correct?
So 202 Creates is actually an initiative, Chairman Fruman, that is overseen by our Creative Affairs Office. So in our Creative Affairs Office, we have the 202 Creates initiative, which we have the 202 residency program. We have the Care for Creatives mental health resource program. We also are able to support and lead the Mayor's Arts Awards under that umbrella, as well as a number of other activities within the Creative Affairs Office.
I guess there's another line for, or could be, for creative economy and creative economy supports, and these things could be individually articulated under that. Have you thought about an approach like that?
It's something that we will talk about in greater detail, certainly.
Okay. And I think that in pre-hearing responses, you might have noted that none of the funds allocated to the Mayor's Arts Awards and 202 Creates have been expended as of yet.
No.
Is there a plan to expend them?
Oh, absolutely. So normally what takes place in the month leading up to 202 Creates Month is what we like to call it. That's in September of every year. So we have a variety of activities that take place during 202 Creates Month. There's a big kickoff. There are panels. There are different ways that we work to amplify the creative economy. And they're kind of bookended. 202 Creates kicks off early September. So we start the month there and we end the month with the Mayor's Arts Awards. And in between, there are a number of activities really shining a spotlight on the creative economy here in the city.
So the freeze, is that going to affect that, or has that been exempted from the freeze?
We have submitted a waiver and we hope that that waiver is approved.
But it not approved it yet.
Not yet.
So maybe Congress will act, who knows, but I mean, it does go to this idea of articulating them more clearly in the budget, because they're there, they haven't been expended, but they shouldn't have been expended. And so you don't want every spring for somebody sitting in my seat to be thinking, oh, that money's not been spent. Better to have it on a line,
Mm-hmm.
202 Creates in parentheses September.
Right.
Mayor's Arts Awards September so that it just jumps off the page like, no, that's not been spent.
And
But
this
it
is
shouldn't
why.
have.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. But we can't say enough about the creative economy and how important it is to our city. And for everyone to think about the creative economy in a variety of ways. The creative economy is everything from our theater workers, our theaters, to graphics artists and designers, hairstylists, cosmetologists, and any number of creative careers, non-traditional careers, which is what is going to diversify our economy here in this city. It's going to grow our economy here in this city. They're non-traditional jobs. So we want to make sure that this industry continues to grow and has the support that it needs and the spotlight that it needs as well.
Well, and you, using 202 Creates, I guess you've said in your opening remarks, I think you said that 202 Creates has saved DC residents $4.3 million. And so help me on, I mean, that's fabulous. I mean, how much is spent on 202 Creates?
So 202 Creates, when we're thinking about it in the budget, on the budget line for the upcoming fiscal year would be $313,777. We have been able to save money for those who have participated in various programs. We host co-working days all around the city, and those are especially important right now as in this Doge economy, people have lost their jobs. Sometimes people who have had full-time jobs had side hustles, if you will, that were in the creative economy. We provide them workspace now, co-working space that is free of charge, that we're able to negotiate on their behalf. We're also able to provide a number of other programs to continue to give them the resources that they need, training, networking, learning how to work with this very government, putting them in contact with the Department of Small and Local Business Development, DCRA, DOB, learning about permits and so forth, having different talk sessions and speakers coming in to speak with them. Those are the things that have been able to save residents that type of money, because if they had to pay for it, they'd be paying for it at top dollar. We've been able to give it to them at free of charge.
I see. So, and the way in which you calculate, I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me if I don't have it right, but the way in which you're calculating the savings is we delivered courses to 20 people.
Exactly.
And those courses cost $200. So that's this much saving. We provided workspace to this. So that's, and you're leveraging $300,000 to organize the events. And part of that is negotiating, hey, can we use this space and provide this space free? And that's how you leverage $300,000 to get to this 4.3 million in savings. Am I understanding?
Yes, and we also put on the Mayor's Arts Awards, the kickoff and the activities that are taking place in the month of September. And I do want to go back to that co-working space, because that is kind of twofold. It's important for those who need to take advantage of that service. But right now, example, our last one was at Maquetto on H Street. We have heard the voices of those on H Street and what they're going through, those businesses. So it's able to provide visibility to some businesses that need some opportunity as well. So those are very important from a twofold standpoint, those who are able to take advantage of the opportunity, but also the businesses that need that amplification, that needs that free PR, if you will, and that visibility and amplification.
Yeah, I hear you. In terms of the residents the direct beneficiaries, about how many people is that? So if it's saving $4.3 million for 100 people, what are the number of participants?
That's been over 250 participants that's got us to that number.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then again, I mean, this isn't, it kind of goes back to it'd be useful to have a separate line where it was, one could see it. Maybe it's a sub line.
Okay.
And I think somewhere there's a reference to a $13.8 billion valuation of DC's creative economy.
That's correct. That was from the National Endowment of the Arts.
So was this an analysis that they did just of the district, or did they do analyses in a lot of different places, and this is the number they came up with for the district?
I believe this was an analysis they did of all 50 states, and this number was our numbers.
Okay, so there's a report somewhere, National Endowment of the
Yep.
Arts, evaluate. So in terms of what's the methodology, how did they do that? Probably better for me to look at that report as opposed to, but and I guess here there's all the big institutions, so those probably I think I need to look at that report.
Sure.
If it's linked online or something, if somebody could send that.
We definitely can. There also is another report that you should see, Chairman Fruman, that the National Endowment of the Arts also just released that shows and demonstrates how the creative industries have more than doubled over the past 2 decades, and that there are trillions that it has contributed to our country's economy. It's a very important report. This one was just released in April of 2025.
And does that report also have a state breakdown by any chance?
I don't believe that one did.
Okay. Because I'm 100% with you that we want to grow this segment of the economy. And so if there are things you think that compellingly help make that case, share them with me.
Absolutely.
I think in your pre-hearing responses, you spoke about how the film rebate fund was used as an incentive to draw the Atlantic 10 conference headquarters from Newport News to DC. So, well, talk to me about how that happened, because it's I guess moving a headquarters, it's sort of surprising use for the dollars, but you've said you've never left dollars on the table, which then raises the question, if you had more dollars, how much more do you think you could do? But first on the Atlantic 10 thing and the headquarters move,
Sure.
that's sort of a counterintuitive use of the film rebate program to me, but how did that work?
Yeah, so the DC rebate fund has 2 elements, production rebate and also infrastructure. So the infrastructure portion of the program provides a rebate for infrastructure improvements to an existing facility that's in the district, or to attract a company that's interested in matriculating to the district and building a brick and mortar facility that is in the media production space. So how the Atlantic 10 move to the district involved the rebate fund was when they began their conversations with DEMPED and Events DC, they had some conditions. Well, in order for us to move, we need the following. And one of it, we need to have a media center in our headquarters where we can coordinate all of the media production for all of the clips and all of the broadcasts of our sports programming. So they said, is there any way for you to help facilitate, if we did move, the building and the creation of that media center with all of the requisite, equipment that would be required? And so the DC rebate funds infrastructure portion of the program was a piece in that attraction package that was part of enticing them to come here, because I think the rebate they received was $121,000 that contributed to the development and the build out of their media center. So that's how the rebate fund program was a piece of that attraction.
And where's that located?
It's in DuPont Circle.
And I mean, that's a very different thing than the production studio
Yeah.
that we're talking about. It's a much,
But it's also very important because the other thing that we want to begin leveraging the program to do is to keep facilities from moving to other jurisdictions and to give them the ability to upgrade. And that's why I mentioned specifically, not just matriculating and building brand new facilities, but also upgrading existing facilities so that they are industry standard. So we want to keep businesses that are here and keep them viable. So that's another aspect to the infrastructure piece.
and it kind of goes to back to the production studio. But one thing is you let 1,000 flowers bloom and you have a whole bunch of different media centers. A different thing is you get folks to contribute or participate in a bigger facility that is flexible and can be used in different ways. To what extent are we trying to do that to draw stakeholders like in this Atlantic 10 thing? And I don't know that this works, but they want a media center to do this work. Could be that they want that to be in the building with their offices or just proximate. And so could we, and maybe this is, I don't know who this question goes to, but is there an argument that if we got funding to do our mixed use facility, that could then become a draw that would be used with entities like the Atlantic 10? And then is there the possibility of getting entities like the Atlantic 10 to contribute to getting over the line on building the mixed use facility? Maybe it's a capital contribution up front. Maybe it's a willingness to pay rent for the use of the facilities. I don't know. Is that a thing that folks have looked at? It could be, and I don't know the numbers here, but you help me. Say it would cost $10 million to bring the BET facility up to what it needs to be. And so that's got a cost, and it's got, borrowing, and what's the interest on that? But then have we done like a pro forma to say these facilities can rent for X dollars an hour, and we think that there would be the capacity to rent it for a certain amount, and so the income stream would be Y, and that would more than cover the cost of the upgrade? I see somebody behind you nodding their head.
So I would say over time, we have considered a lot. I mean, I think the concept that you're putting out of there is almost as if there's like a central communications hub type idea where there'd be a facility, and we've looked at other jurisdictions that have done that. More recently, the state of Georgia and how they built around their credit, their state tax credit, which a lot of production flocked there over time because of it. And it's a tax credit, it's not a cash rebate. But we've considered that over time and, possibly revenue generating, but there are various factors that intervened. And we've never been able to move forward with that. But honestly, yes, we have considered that. We may not have gone to a full-fledged pro forma, but even in wrapping in more of the creative economy notion of, workspace, we have, because it's actually 2 buildings on that campus. But I can't say to you with detail that we really crunched the numbers, created some viable mechanism, sought out partners. And we do that because we collaborate naturally, but sought out potential partners that could contribute capital to doing it. So no.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just throwing out ideas, and since when when there's the Olympics, a tournament, a political convention, folks set up a shared media center. And so, and we almost on, because we're the center for politics, we always have an Olympics around around what's happening in the city. And so there, it does seem like maybe there is a potential there. And we've gone from, and I think this is going to happen more and more, you know, there's shared workspaces that is happening in the office space. And I think it's only going to happen more in this post-COVID world where folks aren't in the office 5 days a week. And so I'd encourage looking at whether or not we could create a pathway for folks so that we could tap into that. We talked about the remaining funds in the film rebate fund. Also in terms of a changing world, there's are there, and this is, you know, this is a sore point. So cable is not on the rise. And that's a problem. And we talked about this at the general oversight hearing, and maybe I should give you the opportunity to talk about that and what challenges that poses. But everything in the world is changing, including reliance on cable and streaming. I think a couple of people have talked about, you know, maybe it was streaming became the flavor of the month, but maybe it's something different that's coming. But my question is, to what extent do you guys think about a pivot from cable to streaming? But maybe before getting to that, if you could speak to where you are in your cable television regulation and its implications over time for your budget.
Well, Chairman Fruman, you are absolutely right. Cord cutting still remains an issue. It is pretty much the reason behind our decline in our SPR funds because of the cable franchise fees and the cord cutting. I will turn it to
cord cutting.
Cord cutting, yep. People have cut the cord and turned to streaming services. So I will turn to our General Counsel, Lawrence Cooper, who oversees the regulatory area of our cable, for our cable.
Yes, council member, that is a sore subject, but a reality for us. And as I describe this phenomena and how it directly impacts our franchise revenue, being a part of a coalition of local franchising authorities nationwide, we challenged the position that the operators take with respect to the switch when customers cut the cords, so to speak. They're still customers of those cable companies, and they are providing them services pursuant to the franchise infrastructure that they've built out under the franchise agreements. What they do, however, is exclude them from gross revenue for cable services, arguing that this is for internet service or streaming services. We've challenged that with the FCC. The FCC has supported that position. The courts have supported it. It even one of the suits that we're a part of even went up to the Supreme Court and they denied cert. So we know that this continued decline, they're not losing customers. They're just not counting the customers that are internet-based or streaming under the same infrastructure that they provide cable service, because that's their permission to operate in the district's rights of way. It's the franchise agreement. So we've done, we've been active in trying to counter that, but it's a nationwide phenomenon. Now, one of the things that we did do a few years ago was to launch a streaming network so that we would have that capability. The PEG channels that exist that the agency oversees, as well as any PEG channels, they were frequency of the operators. So when they first started this positioning of trying to decrease the benefits that they provide to local jurisdictions, there was language in there that spoke to the PEG channels and them being able to charge, to make a charge for the value of that space, because the frequency belongs to the cable operators, but you're given those channels as a benefit under the franchise agreement. So, with that in mind, we wanted to start to diversify even the agency's platforms. And because the PEG channels are local, doing a streaming network, which is far more costly, and that goes to why the industry is dealing with all of the downsizing that's taking place, because the traditional networks are far more expensive to operate. The back end of a streaming channel, it's all based on the internet, so it's not as capital intensive. So we've made that move. And then I think in general, the agency has continued to create more collaborations to offset its operation costs, whether it's the production of programming or initiatives that we're involved in, because we recognize the constraints of the special purpose revenue funds that we have. We're also going to be more actively providing production services. We do have studio facilities ourselves, quite capable staff to produce content. And so we're sort of looking at continuing to kind of press the issue on doing outside production work. But yeah, it is a challenge, and it's something that we're looking at constantly. And I think the only thing concrete that I could communicate is the nature of the collaborations that we do with third parties, as well as similar agencies, Events DC, to try to fund our operations, knowing that there's going to be, or conceivably will be, the decline is a little less now. Like even with respect to the customer inquiries that we get, customer service inquiries, there's less on the billing side than there is on the infrastructure side now, because there has been continued movement to streaming because it's cheaper than the cable service.
And Chairman, if our AFO Cassandra Fields could also weigh in, because she has been forecasting where we are over the past several years. So I know she has some great information to share there as well.
Yes, so I've been the AFO for this agency since January of 2018. And from that point on, I've been looking at the revenues, forecasting. We've been reviewing, the OCFO has been reviewing the revenue, not only year over year, but quarter over quarter within a fiscal year. But over the past 5 fiscal years, we've seen an overall revenue decline of about 29%. But year over year, it's ranged anywhere from 4% all the way up to 11% in FY 2023. So we will continue to monitor the revenue to see how it goes, but we project an average year over year decline in revenue of about 7%.
That's going forward. Okay. And this is, and Bob Dylan has a song, "The Man in Me Will Try Sometime." And sometimes I find myself the lawyer in me. And so there's a lot in this dispute. I mean, it's not just us, it's cities all over the city, all over the country. What's the way for a city to be able to regulate in this area, in this internet area? And it's above my pay grade, and the Supreme Court denied cert. It does put me in the mind when I was in law school, I had a class in international law of air and space. And the that there's going to be somebody else in this room at noon, so me going on about things like this is probably I gotta discipline myself. But the equatorial countries, the satellites that serve our communication system are all directly above the equator. That's their what's it called, geostationary. So but in order to be geostationary, they have to be above directly above the equator. And so the equatorial countries at some point said, well, under common law, Roman law, we control everything to the center of the earth and up into the heavens. So that's ours, where the satellites are. So you, the developed countries, should be paying us rent for the use of the space above, directly above our country. And somehow the way it got decided was that when airplanes fly over a country, that's regulated. When what was the guy, Gary Powers, flew a little bit higher and flew over, I think that was regulated. But satellites not on geostationary orbit have been going around the Earth for as long as there have been satellites, and that's never been regulated. So somewhere between where an airplane flies and where satellites are, you lose jurisdiction. But the streaming happens below where airlines are. So is there, then you get into, is it national or is it state? But finding a way for us to benefit, it's clearly bringing out the lawyer in me, but we got to get out of here. So I'm going to stop on that.
And Chairman, I might be the only dinosaur in the room. I still have cable. I find cable to be magnificent, quite frankly. And by the time I look at it, as if you pay for several streaming services, you might as well have cable anyway. That was Toya's 2 cents. I mean,
all right. Well, thank you.
math.
So on your cable channels, is there a budgetary breakdown for each of the individual channels, or I don't think there is. And could there be? Why wouldn't there be a budgetary breakdown for each of the cable channels?
The cable channels don't have a budgetary breakdown. They're just a part of our operational budget. But could it be, Cassandra, Lawrence? I'm not. What you weigh in there?
I think because most of the resources that we have port across those platforms. I mean, we have one master control facility that is overseeing the broadcast of all of those channels and also the upload of content for the streaming channel. Our staff is not designated towards specific channels, nor the videographers, nor the editors. And so I think that's I've been at the agency for probably like 2015, beginning FY16. I think that's likely the reason why there's not separate channel budgets.
And so I hear you on that, but you do wonder, like, you might internally want to track, like, how much are we spending generally on, how much of our resources are being soaked up by this one? How much of our resources are being soaked up by that one? Do you try to track that, or
I mean, in some respects, I guess you could do that, but when you talk about the infrastructure, like I said, the broadcast center or what have you, they're monitoring everything at the same time. So it would make it difficult. Certainly, there are channels that more content is produced for, but we also try sometimes to produce or to broadcast content across multiple platforms. So it's probably something that I think should be considered, but that's likely why it hasn't really been a big deal. And internally, there are allocations that are made amongst each year based on the budget, but the budget lines might not reflect those allocations.
and in terms of overlaps. And do you ever think about using the same space to do, sometimes there are things like Council Channel. Is the Council Channel broadcasting always? Or is it just yes?
Yes,
So are all of the channels broadcasting 24/7?
yes, they're all, always,
Always.
always.
Okay.
So if you were to turn on the council channel in the evening, you may see some of the hearings. Last night, I was looking at some from May 29th or earlier in the week. So you would see a repetition of what's taking place over the past few days. Same with the district of Columbia Network. You'll see the mayor's press conferences and various events and so forth. And DKN, little bit different because you have original programming there and you have acquired programming. So that's where you would find the DKN sports that you spoke of with the high school sports. You may also find some of our educational pieces, or you might even find some of our original programming series, such as we have one on the District Divas, which is the women football team, as a full series around that. So, but to the point, yes, they're on 24/7 around the clock.
Okay. And it doesn't surprise me. I often go places and people are like, I know you.
That's great.
And they might have been up at 3 o'clock in the morning and had a loop of some.
So they may be looking at channel 13, but
Mhm.
also keep in mind that our broadcast, depending on the topic or what have you, also goes out to our local, national, and international media outlets as well. So it could be twofold.
Could be. So I think it was noted that there are 40 go-go activations to be dispersed before the end of FY 25.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about a little bit more about that and potential plans for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of GoGo next year? And in terms of the 40 disbursements that are supposed to happen, are they affected by the freeze?
So the funding for the Go-Go People's Plan did get an approved waiver. So we are able to move forward with funding for the Go-Go program. Those 40 that we reference, they range from anything from projects to events that we are able to support from those in the Go-Go community. And might I add, we have been joined by Cameron Poles here, who is the manager of one of our great Go-Go bands here in the city, Black Alley. So I would say that we are dispersing those funds for those 40 projects, activations, events, and so forth towards the end of the fiscal year. We currently have spent about roughly a little over $650,000, and we will spend the remaining from now through the end of the fiscal year. As it relates to next year, we know it's a big year for our country. There's going to be a number of activities taking place here in our city for the semi-quincentennial. I think I got that right. But in addition to it being the semi-quincentennial of our country, here in our city, it is the 50th anniversary of GoGo. So there will be a number of different events and ways that we will want to celebrate both of what's taking place here in the city.
So Ron Moten talked about impact of all of these different things. I think you have the strategic impact advisors. We're going to do some sort of an economic analysis of the impact.
Yes.
Where does that stand in terms of measuring that economic impact?
So Dr. Masuda Mahdi of the Strategic Impact Advisors, he continues to analyze the economic impact of the Film Rebate Fund. We have been talking to him and working to stand up a model to analyze the economic impact of GoGo and our activations. And we're still in that process. We have not gotten it stood up at this point, but we are in conversations to get that erected as soon as possible. We were delayed slightly because of the spending freeze, but we do look forward to getting that in place.
So you need to get a cost estimate of what it would cost to do the model. And then you have
Correct.
to include it in the budget. Is there place in your budgets, if that work were completed in October and you wanted to do it in FY '26, where would it fit in your budget?
We believe we would just broaden the scope of the current contract that we have with Strategic Impact Advisors.
Okay. Um, And is that your expectation that at this time next year, when we're talking about the budget, that we'd have an economic analysis?
That is definitely our goal.
Um, the last time we spoke, there was an issue in budgeting for overtime in the past fiscal year. Has that issue been resolved?
That is actually in this current fiscal year that we're in, fiscal year 25.
Right.
Right, where the overtime was inadvertently omitted during formulation. And we have been working to resolve that through vacancy savings
Through vacancy savings. So you're using vacancy savings to pay for overtime.
to offset, correct?
I see. And then, forgive me, in FY '26, is there a line for overtime so that you're
Yes, and
covered for that?
yeah, fiscal year 26, we have $150,000 allocated towards overtime.
Okay, so I keep calling you OCTFME, but you say OCTFME.
Uh-huh.
Am I, but every time I say OCTFME, like I don't make it.
OCTFME works great. Deputy Mayor Albert says the same thing
Okay.
when she introduces. We say OCTFME, but we're speaking the same language.
Okay, so, because I had just said it 5 times and then you spelled it out, so. All right, well, I think we have covered what we needed to cover. I really appreciate your testimony and your work. Mr. Poles, I know we need to vacate the room, but I will stop and try to get your testimony informally once we close out. But for now, this concludes today's budget oversight hearing. If you plan on submitting written testimony for the record, please do so by uploading it to the Council Electronic Hearing Management System at https://lims.dccouncil.gov/hearings/ before the close of business on Friday, June 13th, 2025. The time is now 11:48 a.m. and this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.